I'm going to go over just a little snippet from chapter 14 in this JavaScript second edition by Steve Suring, step by step. This is what the book looks like, so if you want to order it from your public library, you can study the things that I'm studying. All right, I've got on the right my Notepad++ code, and on the left the browser is open. We have, I guess I can take all this off, an external JavaScript that the book creates as like a helper file, and it's called ehandler.js. I'm going to go over it really quick. Another thing I think I brought up in a different video, but I'll repeat it. If you click inside your window and on your keyboard hold your control button down, which is in the left bottom of your keyboard, and then take your scroll on your mouse, if you scroll up, your text gets larger, and if you scroll down, it gets smaller. So that's a quick way to increase your visibility for your if you're going to do a video, or if you just want to increase your code font size. Same thing over here. If you do the same thing in your browser, you click inside the browser, hold the control, and scroll up, it does the same thing. I'm going to stick with these sizes right here. So let's go over the ehandler.js, which I've went over before, but I'll go over it again, because if you don't have both of these files, this code will not work. So if you want to copy this code for practice, you have to have both files. Var ehandler equals, you got empty curly braces and an ending semicolon. Next, if document dot add event listener, and that's in your parentheses, then you've got this curly brace here, that if this is true, if document dot add event listener, that is going to go all the way to from this red curly brace to this one on line 23. Okay, otherwise it's going to obey this else if, and it's going to go from 25 to 44, and then we're done. So let's go over the first little bit. If document.add event listener, ehandler.add equals function, and in parentheses element comma etype comma efunc, then you've got another curly brace here. If etype equals load, and also pay attention to the difference between the single equal sign and the double equal sign, because they mean different things, so you have to be accurate when you're retyping this. If etype equals load, here's your curly brace. If type of window.onload equals function, you got your opening curly brace. Var existing onload equals window.onload. Window.onload equals function, and you got another curly brace. Existing onload, so that function's being called, and efunc, and you've got the empty parentheses after both existing onload and efunc. Then you have the ending curly brace here that matches this one for your window.onload equals function. There's that one. And this ending curly brace matches this up here, the if type of window.onload equals function. So you see they're both highlighted in red. Then you have this else statement, and then you see the matching curly braces here. This else statement in here says window.onload equals efunc. There's the end those, and then right here is the ending curly brace that matches this if etype equals load. After that you got this else, and everything in this else is contained in these curly braces right here. Element.add event listener, parentheses etype comma efunc comma false. So there's that pair, and there's this pair right here. Then you have the ending semicolon. Next we have ehandler.remove equals function, and in parentheses element comma etype comma efunc, and here's your red curly brace that matches this red curly brace, and everything inside of there is this statement. Element.remove event listener, and parentheses etype comma efunc comma false. Alright, so there's the ending curly brace for that, and you have your semicolon there, and this ending curly brace encloses all of this stuff from this line all the way to there. Now, here's the else if I was talking about. So that means that if we're going to go to the else if, that means that all this other stuff in here isn't going to run. So else if document.attach event ehandler.add equals function parentheses element comma etype comma efunc, and then you can see this red curly brace goes all the way down here to this curly brace. If etype equals load, then you have another curly brace here that goes to here. Then it asks if type of window.onload equals function, and then here's the red curly braces, and all the meat of that is here. Var existing onload equals window.onload, window.onload equals function, existing onload, and efunc. Those two things are being called. Else, and that goes from this curly brace to this curly brace, window.onload equals efunc. Then this else has this element.attach event, the text on plus etype comma efunc. So there's the enclosing curly braces there, and this is the ending curly brace for the whole ehandler.add equals function element etype func. See the matching reds. Then you have a semicolon after that one, and then finally we have ehandler, all of this, ehandler.remove equals function, and in parentheses element comma etype comma efunc, and then in those curly braces element.detach event, the string on plus etype comma efunc. And there's the final curly brace that goes to this whole else if. It does all that. And that's all you get for the ehandler.javascript. So now that you've seen that, I can get rid of it, and let's look at test.html, which is all the code that gives you this page right here that you're looking at here at the left. Opening HTML, opening head, title, it says catalog example, which you see up here in the browsers tab. Script, type equals text / JavaScript, source equals ehandler.js. That's the file I just went over, and this is pointing to it. So this whole script and end script tag is pointing to that. So if you don't have it, it's not going to work. Then here you have script type equals text / JavaScript, and we actually have a function inside of this web page. So we have a link that points to a JavaScript outside, an external JavaScript, and then we have a script here in the head. Starting on line 9, we have function form valid and in parentheses event object. That function goes from this curly brace all the way to line 39, and then we have the end of the script tag. Okay, so let's go over this whole function inside of the head. Again, function form valid event object. If document.forms catalog form in double quotes and straight brackets, quantity in double quotes and straight brackets, dot value is greater than 3. If that's true, then everything in these curly braces will execute. Var submit btn equals document.forms catalog form submit button, and again catalog form is in this straight brackets and double quotes, and submit button is also in the double quotes and straight brackets. The next line is var quantity p equals document.getElement by ID, quantity p in double quotes and parentheses. Then we have var msg equals document.createElement, and we're going to create an li, which is a list item, which you can actually see right here that says limit 3 per household, please. I've also gave the li, which is a list item, a style that gives us this red, because this is basically an error message that we're going to have show up, and I wanted it to stand out, so I gave it a color of red, which you'll see when I get to the style tags in this code. msg.append child, and in parentheses document.create text node, and in more parentheses and double quotes, limit 3 per household, please. And that's what you actually see right here in this output because of the fact that I put the number 6 here, and anything over 3 is going to give this error message. Quantity P dot append child and then parentheses MSG, which is what we created right here. Then we have an if event obj for event object dot prevent default. So this is asking if the browser has this particular method. If it does, then you're going to call it event object dot prevent default. Else, this has to do with cross-browser functionality, because Internet Explorer is a little bit of a picky thing and it doesn't always use the same syntax that maybe Firefox or Chrome would. So you have these different, you have certain code for certain browsers, and otherwise if you don't have that, then do this. So that's basically, I think, what this is going for. Else window.event.return value equals false. And then after that you have return false. And make sure when you type this that you type it the way you see it, with the curly braces and all the different syntax that you see. Make sure you type it the way you see it. Then you got an else statement. Now this means that, look, if this is true, if the value is greater than 3, which I put as a 6 and then I hit place order and then I got this limit 3 per household please. If it's greater than 3, then all this junk happens. All this junk happens. And it returns false, which means it's not going to, the form has an action button that's supposed to point to an external PHP server-side script, which we are not actually using at all. But if we did have it, if we did have this PHP script, because the number is higher than what the limit is, return false means that it's not going to pursue that PHP file, so it will not do any further processing. That's why you hit place order and it just goes right here to this error message that we created in a list item. Well, if this number is not greater than 3, let's say it's 2, then all of this stuff that I went over is going to be ignored because that condition will be false, and it's going to do this piece of code. It's going to do what's in this else. So I'm going to hit 2 and I'm going to hit place order. And it says you get an alert box here that says you ordered 2 blades of grass. We're placing your order now. And this shows you alert, you ordered, and then with this section plus document.forms, catalog form in double quotes and straight brackets, quantity in double quotes and straight brackets, dot value, plus the string blades of grass. We're placing your order now. All of this stuff right here in between those plus symbols is basically spitting out this number that I typed in here. So you see the text on the left, you ordered, the digit 2, which all of this stuff pulls, and then blades of grass, we're placing your order now, is this string concatenated to the end of the number 2. Return true. When I hit this OK button from this alert box, return true means it's going to look for that external PHP server-side script that we have not created. So what's going to happen, and you'll see, I'm going to click OK, and then this is going to say page not found. Your file, or actually your file was not found. It was not found because we didn't create it. But if it were there, it would go to that file and do the server-side processing. So that's what return false stops the processing. Return true allows the further processing. So then we have the end of that function and the end of the script. Let me back up here so you can see the picture again. Let's look at the style. This is again in the head still, and in between the line 43 and line 70 we just have some styles for some of these elements. I have a div with an ID of lawn div, and what it's doing is it's holding this image right here, and these are the 3 styles I gave it: border 10 pixels, tan outset, float left, and margin 10 pixels. Margin 10 pixels means between this border and everything else, all the other elements, we've got 10 pixels of sponge area. And if I don't put float left, I misspell float with a Z, save this and refresh the page, you see that my div expands and everything else is floating underneath it. Well, I want to go back to my float left for that image because it tightens up my border around the image and it lets all this other stuff float to the right of it. And that's how I wanted it to look. Alright, so that's the div with the ID of lawn div. The paragraph and the H3 tags. Paragraph is this right here is an H3, which means a header of the third level, so it's not that large. If it was H1, the font here, the text would be even larger. This is a paragraph, this is a paragraph, and this is a paragraph. And so each of these paragraphs and this H3 header tag share these styles, a margin of 10 pixels and a padding of 10 pixels. The margin is how much space you have outside of the element. The padding is how much space you have on the inside of the element before you see the text or whatever's inside of the element. Okay, then I have an ID of BTN, which here is a button element. It's an input tag with a type of button. I gave it a background color of yellow. I gave it an ID of BTN, a background color of yellow, a padding of 5 pixels, and a font size of 20 pixels. So you see place order, the text on place order is larger than this other stuff over here. Alright, then I have an ID of quantity P. And I gave this particular P tag an ID of quantity P because this paragraph is giving us this quantity to order limit 3 per household text, and it's giving us this text box in which the user inputs information. So I gave that just a simple background color of tan because also the quantity P ID is being used when I get this error message. When I put too many of the quantity, it goes in this paragraph with the ID of quantity P. So again, if I put 8 and I hit place order, this limit 3 per household please is created and contained within this paragraph that I happen to give a background color of tan. So it just gives me a visual of where my error message is going to go. Alright, my list item, color red. If I gave it a color of, let's say blue, and we save it and we refresh the page, let me do an error again, anything more than 3, let me say 4. Place order. Now you see my list item is created and it's styled with the color of blue. But since red pretty much indicates errors, I'm going to go back to red. I'll put in 4 again, place order, limit 3 per household please. Just let you know you did a boo-boo. Alright, there's the end of the style, end of the head, and let's look at the body. Starting in line 76, we create a form tag. Form name equals catalog form, ID equals catalog form, action equals catalog.php. This is that action that's pointing to this external PHP file that we did not create. If we had this PHP file and we were running like XAMPP or something to make your computer act as a server and a client, then this right here would call it and it would do the processing. Like if I bought 4 blades of grass at $100 each, somewhere down here it would do the math in the program on that file and give me that output. But since we're not using this, we wind up getting that file not found. So this is something we can learn for future. This is something for future reference when we get into PHP code. I can create a catalog.php and this method post will, when it says return true, it will go to it and do whatever code is on that file. Okay, so that is the opening of the form tag. Now we have a div, that div I was telling you about with the ID of lawn div that has this border right here and the certain amount of margin and the fact that it floats to the left. Inside the lawn div opening and closing tag, we have an image tag, and that's the image tag. Image alt equals Steve's lawn is dead. So what happens is If this image gets broken, you'll see the words Steve's lawn is dead instead of the image. The source is grass.jpg, and I created this kind of illusion of grass. It's kind of abstract. It's supposed to be dried up grass with a few blades of good green, and I created it in Paint, saved it in the whole folder so that it would point to it directly. ID equals lawn pick. I can't remember where in the code we use lawn pick. If I wanted to stylize this particular image, I could put pound lawn pick in my style tags right here. I could do pound lawn pick and give it a style. Let's see what it'll do. Border thick blue solid. Let's see what that does. See, gave it a thick blue solid border over the image itself. It's not stylizing the div, it's stylizing the image. And then I guess if I wanted to make that image have rounded corners, I could give it a border radius of 20 pixels. That's going to give me a rounding. See? So it didn't affect the div, it just affected the image. But I don't really care to do that, so I'll just take it off. But I'm just showing you if I did want to use that ID, I could do it inside the style tags. So let's save this back the way it was, make it simple. Let me show you if I break this image by misspelling grass.jpg by putting a Z in front of it. You should see the words in this alt equals Steve's lawn is dead. Let's try that out. Steve's lawn is dead, and see there's a broken image, a little icon that means a broken image, and you see the words instead. Alright, so let me fix the spelling of my grass.jpg so that it's no longer broken. Save and refresh, and now our page is there again. Another thing you could add to this image if you wanted is a title equals something in double quotes. Some grass. Okay, so this is going to give us a tooltip. So we save in Notepad++, let me refresh the page, and when I hover over the image, you see that little floaty that came up there, that little pop-up? It says some grass. You don't have to have it, but if you want to have it, that's how you do it. You put that in your image tag. So there's the end of the div that holds that image. Now here's the H3 tags that hold the header that says order blades of grass from Steve's lawn. Order blades of grass from Steve's lawn. Here's some paragraph tags. This gives us a little paragraph. Description: Steve is horrible at lawn care, so there's not much grass on his lawn. Quantities are extremely limited. And there's that paragraph, you see? Whoops. There's that paragraph right there. And another paragraph that has some text inside. It says price, $100 per blade. And there that is. Here's a paragraph, and there's that ID that I gave it. ID equals quantity P. So our opening P tag has P. ID equals quantity P. And quantity P, if you remember, is something that I put in a style tag right here. Pound quantity P, background color tan. If I wanted to give every one of these paragraphs a different background color, I could do that. But I only wanted the one that we were working with that has some type of functionality based on what the user types in. I just wanted to bring that one out. Again, that's here. Alright, so P, ID equals quantity P. We have the text here that says quantity to order. You see quantity to order. And then this EM tag, it's what does it mean? Emphasize? Basically what it's doing is everything inside of the EM tags is it's making this italic. Limit 3 per household in parentheses. You can see that. It's italicized that text. Then you have input type equals text, name equals quantity. This is the text box right here. It has a name of quantity, so when we refer to quantity, we're referring to what the user is putting in here. Now 23 is more than 3, so if I hit place order, it doesn't tell us you ordered 23 dong you need to only have 3 or less, it just says limit 3 per household, please. It's not actually pulling it's not pulling this amount out. The only time it pulls this amount out is when we use the alert box, as long as we have 3 or less and we hit place order, and then we get this alert box that says you ordered 3 blades of grass. We're placing your order now. Click OK. It looks for the PHP file, which it doesn't find, but if it did, this is the page. This is the result. Our result would show up here. All right. Now after that, there's the NP tag. We have another P tag, which you can't see any color, background color, but in that P tag we have an ID equals submit P. This is the paragraph that holds the submit button. And inside of that, I could open this up a little bit, we have an input tag with an ID of BTN. And that ID of BTN, remember, pound BTN was in my style right here. And there's the style, background color yellow, padding 5 pixels, font size 20 pixels. So that's what the ID of BTN does. Type, what type of input? This is a submit, so we're getting a button. Value equals place order, and that is what you see on the face of the button, place order, right there. And there's the end of the input tag right there. End of the P that's holding it. End of the form. Now we have a script, and we're almost done with this page. Script type equals text / JavaScript. var form L. We're going to create this variable called form L for form element. And we're setting it equal to document.getElements by tag name form. So it's looking for the tag name form, which is right here on line 77. And this is actually index of 0, which means it's looking for the first form on the page. We only have one form, so this is not going to have a problem. If you had 3 or 4 forms on the page, you'd want to give the form a name and then put, instead of 0, meaning the first form in an array of forms, you just would put the name right here in double quotes. Then in 108 we have ehandler.add. So this is going to be using that external JavaScript to create functionality here. ehandler.add form L, which we just created there, comma, submit in double quotes. So we're looking for the submit functionality, and we're calling function, and the function at the top had event object as a parameter, so you're using it as an argument here. You're making sure that you put that in there, a function event object. And then in the curly braces here, all of that, you're actually going to call the function form valid that we created in the head, and then again we've got event obj inside of parentheses. You've got it in there, you've got it in there, and if we go all the way up to the top, that function we created, function form valid, you've got it there, and everywhere that it's highlighted in green you've got that event obj. And so it's important that your spelling is always on point, because if you misspell it here or somewhere else, and it's supposed to be the same in those places, then your code will be wrong. So ehandler.add form EL, I always want to say form E1, form L for form element, comma, submit, comma, function event obj, curly braces, form valid, event obj. So then you have the ending semicolon and the ending curly brace. So all this goes together. And these curly braces, you have form valid event object, semicolon, and then this ending parenthesis belongs to this parenthesis, and then to end this entire statement here you have another semicolon. End of the script, end of the body, end of the HTML. So again, to go over this really quick, we have a JavaScript function that is just validating what the user types in here, and they want to try to limit the user to not ordering more than 3 of an item. Here they're talking about blades of grass, which is silly, but this could be snow cones, this could be bicycles, cars, this could be whatever you want to sell and you only want the customer to have a limit of 3 per household. So if you put 1 in there, that will not give you an error message. That will, if you hit place order, that will give you the alert box that says you ordered 1 blade of grass. We're placing your order now. And when you hit the OK, it's going to look for an external PHP and place the order and do the server-side code. Well, we don't have the server-side code, so we get your file was not found. So this kind of seems like an incomplete program, which it is, but this book deals with JavaScript, not PHP, so it's just showing you the JavaScript end of it. Again, if you put in too many, then before it goes to the server, the JavaScript is supposed to check on the client side, which is the user side. So 6 is too many, so you hit place an order, and it does not go to the server-side script. It just gives you this error message in a list item that's been colorized by CSS in the style tags. Limit 3 per household, please. Does not go to the next page, and every time you hit place order, it's just going to be based on whatever you put here. But if you put 3 or less, hit place order, it tells you what you ordered, and if you're placing your order, you click OK, and it's looking for that server-side script that it doesn't have. So you got 2 things happening. It's either going to send it to the server-side script, the PHP, which we don't have, which is going to allow the order to be processed by the company, or it's going to keep it on the computer on the client side, which is the user, and give them this little bit of error handling before it goes to the server. Now, the point the book made is that someone can turn their, let's see, I don't even know if I can quickly turn my JavaScript off. I mean, I know I can, I just don't know where it is right quick. Settings. Oh, I just want to default browser, advanced settings. I want to turn the JavaScript off on this browser. Downloads. Let me see. Let me see if I can find JavaScript. I'm sure that I'm probably looking right over something that's going to be dealing with JavaScript. I'm just looking for the word JavaScript. I should have looked this up before I started the video. But anyway, the point is JavaScript is just like a pre-validation, and when you're actually running a real website with a real company, the book is telling you that you have to also validate on the server side, which is the PHP script, which is the script we're not actually into right now because this book is only about JavaScript. And that way, if the user turns JavaScript off, it'll do the checks on the server side as well to make sure that there's not anything being input by the user that you don't want. You don't want the customer to order 100 and then have it actually go and start pulling 100 of your inventory out for one household. If your rules say 3 per household, then you want your code to only let them order that number on your server side. This is just something to try to stop the user before anything gets sent to the server. So if they have their JavaScript on, it gives them like a pre-warning. If they don't have their JavaScript turned on, you still have to do the code necessary to validate in your PHP server-side script, as well as your external or internal JavaScript. Alright, with that, I have read both files, test.html from top to bottom. I went over the external ehandler.js JavaScript, and I showed you what it looks like in the browser, and I showed you how to increase the size by, again, clicking in your window, holding down your control key, and while you're holding the control key, scroll your mouse up or down, and the same thing with your Notepad++. Holding your control key and scroll up or down just to make it to the best visibility for your particular eyesight and whatever you're using. If you're just doing this yourself, it's not a big deal. If you're making a video or trying to teach somebody in a classroom, you probably want to increase your font size so that those that are sitting in the back of the class can see everything just fine and dandy. Okay, with that, I'm going to finish this.